All right, guys, I'm going to go over these questions from 1.1 points, lines, and planes. All right, so if you're looking at this first page, we would have filled this in class after doing our kind of card matching activity. All right, so let's look at some definitions and then get into some practice questions. All right, so we have a point, which is a location. All right, and it has no size or shape, and we always use a capital letter to name a point. All right, so the example here would be point A. Okay, now for a line, it is made up of points. Any 2 points will form a line. A line has no thickness or width, and you can name a line by any 2 points on the line or a lowercase script letter. So an example here would be, we can have line XY with this symbol here, or we could have line, it looks like lowercase n. Now, a couple of definitions with this line is we have collinear points, points that lie on the same line, like for example, x and y are collinear, they lie on the same line. And then non-collinear points, points that do not lie on the same line. So if I were to put another point out here, like W, you could see that W does not lie on the same line as X and Y. So those 3 points of X, Y, and W are non-collinear. For a plane, right? A plane is a flat surface made up of points. Any 3 points will make up a plane. A plane extends indefinitely in all directions, and you can name a plane by using any 3 non-collinear points on the plane, or a lot of times these planes will be accompanied by an uppercase script letter. So the example here is we could say plane P, or we could also say plane J, K, and L, because those are 3 non-collinear points on this plane. Now, in terms of a couple other words you might hear us use in class, we have coplanar points, points that lie in the same plane, like J, L, and K. And then non-coplanar points, points that do not lie on the same plane. And this would be, you must have at least 4 points, right? So if I put a different point out there, that would make those 4 would be non-coplanar. Okay, for intersecting lines and planes, 2 lines intersect at a point, and 2 planes will intersect at a line. Okay, so let's use some of this information to answer some practice questions together. All right, so the first one we have, it's asking us to use this diagram to find 4 collinear points. So that'd be 4 points that are all on the same line. And I see we have points H, N, K, and I are 4 points that are all on the same line. A line that contains point M, here is point M, right here. All right, and that line looks like it is line P. Again, that's not the only way you could name that line. You could also use the other points on there to name that line. A line that contains points H and K. So H and K, here's H, here's K, that would be line R. Another name for line Q, I'm going to use these 2 points to name it, J and L, so I'll name it line JL. All right, and finally the intersection of lines P and R, so here's P, here's R, the intersection of those 2 lines would be point N. All right, again, a couple of answers here that could be different if you're doing it on your own, but ultimately those are some answers for the first one. Let's do another one. Number 2 for these parts, the first one says to find a line containing point F. So we have point F here, right? That looks like line J contains point F. Then we're asking for another name for line K, right? I see point B and point C fall on line K, so I'm going to use BC with that symbol to show that it's a line. Another name for the plane containing point A, and I told you guys a lot of times these planes will be accompanied by some script uppercase letter, which you see there is M, so that's going to be plane M. An example of three non-collinear points, so 3 points that are not on the same line. Let's see, I see point A, I see point D, and then I see, let's see, point F are not collinear. Again, lots of different answers there if you wanted to. All right, the intersection of plane M and line K. So the intersection of plane M and line K looks like it's going to be this point here, point E. All right, let's try number 3. Number 3, we're looking at trying to find 3 coplanar points, so points that all fall on the same plane. And it looks like the base of that shape has a couple of options here. So I'm going to use points W and X and Y. Those all seem to be on the same plane. A plane containing point X, I see that capital script R that tells me that is plane R for the plane that contains point X. So plane R. The intersection of plane R and plane ZVY. Okay, so this one's a little tougher to visualize. I'll try my best here. So here's plane ZVY, this face of this shape, right? And you see plane R. So it looks like this segment here is where the planes are intersecting. So I'm going to use segment VY to show that that is the intersection of those planes. How many planes appear in the figure? Okay, I'll try my best to count for you and explain as I go. Well, we know we have plane R, right? That's definitely one. And then if you look at each of these faces on this shape, we have this one that's kind of the back side, if you will, the front side, and then the left and the right. So that's another 4. And you might mistakenly count the base of that figure, but remember the base of that figure is actually going to be also this plane R, so that'd be double counting. So that's why the number of planes that appear in this figure is 5. Last but not least, how many planes contain point W? So here is point W. We know it's on plane R. It's also on this plane, Z, X, and W, and also on this plane, Z, V, and W. So that would be 3 different planes that point W is on. All right, last one, then we'll be finished. All right, we have the intersection of lines L and M. So here's line L, here's line M, and those lines are intersecting at a point, which is point E. Another name for plane Q, all right, so they're asking us to use coplanar points here. So as long as you use 3 points that are on that same plane, I'm going to use points, let's see, let's do I, F, and G. Sure, why not? All right, and you know what I should do? Let me put plane in front of that. So plane I, F, and G. Okay, are points D and E collinear or coplanar? Okay, so where's D and E? So we have D is here, and E is here. If they were coplanar, they would have to be on the same plane. They're not, but they are on the same line, so they are in fact collinear. And then finally, how many times do planes P and Q intersect? And when I look at these planes, it looks like they're not intersecting at all. So I'm going to go ahead and say they intersect 0 times. All right, guys, hopefully that'll help you with some practice here. And don't forget to complete the homework from Canvas.